guys? Welcome to another episode of Muay Thai Saved Me. If it's your first time tuning in, my name is Kru Neil, and this show showcases how Muay Thai has impacted your life in some good way. But today, I brought on a guest. He's been on the show before. Paul, he's our videographer. He's the one that makes all the magic happen. But I wanted to bring him in today because we wanted to talk fights. There was about 2 weeks ago, right, Paul? There was
December 23rd,
four incredible fights. Probably one of the biggest cards in Muay Thai for the year, for sure.
Oh, yeah. We have Nico Creo versus Nong-O. There was Pranjit Chai versus Lazari 2 sequel. Superbond versus Taiwan Chai, and also Anissa Mexon versus Pete Jija.
Yes.
Well, hopefully I said that right. So yeah, let's get into it. Nico Creo versus Nong-O.
Wow.
Give the audience a little background on Nong-O.
Okay. So if you are unfamiliar with Nong-O, he is a legend in Muay Thai. He's multiple champions in Thailand at Lumpini Stadium. Very well-established career. Has been dominating the scene in one championship for at least the last seven plus years now. Not until recently he got his first loss, which was from Jonathan Haggerty. It was a vicious knockout that he lost to.
Yeah, I think we talked about that one.
We talked about that. It was a vicious upset that a lot of people were not expecting. And so there was a lot of hype going into this fight, like, oh man, all right, Nong-O's coming off a big loss, and Nico Creo is an up-and-coming star. He's a rising star. He's very tough. He's from Scotland. Yeah. Very tough Scottish fighter. And I was really looking forward to the fight, absolutely. And
talk about because one of the things I noticed when I was watching the fight was there's just a big size difference in the two. To give your thoughts on the advantage that something like that would happen, and then talk about also just like weight cutting and things like that, because I know we were talking earlier about your fighters and how your fighters don't make them typically do big cuts, but just kind of talk a little bit about weight cutting and how effective that is in Muay Thai.
Okay, great questions, Paul. The first one I'll touch base on is the advantage, right? When in Muay Thai, when you are the taller, longer range fighter, you have the advantage in every department. Yeah. Like in boxing, right? When a taller fighter fights a shorter guy, the shorter guy is taught to get inside and fight inside the pocket. But in Muay Thai, if you get inside the pocket, now they're going to destroy you with elbows and knees. Yeah. So it's a weird dynamic. But yeah, in Muay Thai, if you are the taller fighter, you have the advantage in every single department.
Because that was a big advantage you had when you were fighting, right? Because you're on the taller side.
Yeah. And then
what percentile would you say you were when you were fighting?
I would say 80%.
Oh, okay.
80% of most of my fights, I was always taller than my opponent. There was a few that we were about the same height.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was predominantly my whole career, but that's just because I was naturally thin. And I was tall. Yeah. So that was why. But cutting weights. If people know me, I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I don't respect it. Yeah. Even though it is an art form in itself, I get there's a lot of discipline and science and everything that goes into that to help a fighter cut weight, but I'm all about being natural. Yeah. And Muay Thai, the way I was taught is that it's a true test to yourself when you go up in the ring to fight, right? And I feel like it takes away from that. There's weight classes for a reason. Right. And I don't feel, and this is my humble opinion, of course, I feel like if I come into a fight and I'm naturally 30 pounds heavier than my opponent, what am I really testing? Right. What am I really testing? Like, I should be fighting the guy who walks around the same weight as I. Yeah. Now we're talking even. Now it's like it's
Tyson
a true test.
Going against who was a fighter at that time? Let's just say Marvin Hagler, for lack of a better name, right? Like Tyson's
2 different weight classes,
50 plus pounds bigger than him. Yeah. It's like, is that really your opponent?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And he'd kill him because, obviously he killed almost everybody in the ring, but it's an unfair advantage. And like, I know the first time I even heard about cutting weight was a couple of my friends were like in bodybuilding. And so now and bodybuilding is not. I mean, there is a performance aspect to it, but it's obviously not on the same level as Muay Thai, right? Yeah. But even they talk about how dehydrated they are, and like if you do it improperly, like you could really hurt your insides and things like that. And so that was always my, like, when I heard that people do that in fights, I'm just like, how is that advantageous? Because and especially in football, it's always about hydration. Yeah. And it's like, keep drinking water, you're going to burn all that off. You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, like, it's very rarely where, I mean, I cut weight my senior year because, like, I started in college. I started at 230 because I wanted to bulk up, because it's just like, I'm going to take on bigger linemen, 300 pounds. I need to get bigger. But then I wasn't as fast. So I was like, all right, let me lose a lot of weight. I was going to change positions too. So I got down to actually 200, which is the lowest I had been probably in 5 years, like since a freshman in high school.
How did you feel, though? Did you feel more explosive?
Yeah, super amazing, but I had no power. So again, it just depends on what position you're playing. So then I put back on the weight because I ended up moving it back to tight end, and I was just way too light as a tight end. And then I put back on weight, so I went to 225. And same kind of thing. It was better than 230, but I lost a little bit of that quickness that I had. And so I figured out, like, my weight was like 223. And yes, I had to work on it, but I had that nice blend of speed and power.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And so, but it wasn't like, I wasn't like malnutritioning as much. It wasn't like any sort of negative aspect in terms of cutting weight. It was just making sure I don't overeat. So sometimes, like, when you're trying to put on weight, it's just eat everything, and you'll worry about
surplus of calories.
And you'll worry about it later. But that wasn't necessarily an issue for me, and it was just maintaining more of a strict diet versus, like, I'm malnourished. Nourished. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that, if you can explain to me why it's so popular. Because, I've heard in the fights that we go in, and people are, like, cutting weight, and they do the weight, and some people, you're saying, lose as much as 10 pounds, if not more, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why?
So I'm going to blame it all on MMA, period. Like, that's my humble opinion, because people didn't really start cutting. Muay Thai is never known for cutting weight. The art form was just, this is your weight, you fight at that weight. That's it. If you end up with more training, you end up naturally losing because you're getting leaner and leaner, right? So then you would just fight at your walk around. But not until MMA really came on the scene, guys were cutting 25 plus pounds. And now all of a sudden people are trying to do that in the Muay Thai circuit. I don't see it in Thai fighters. Thai fighters do not do it.
Like the one championship guys, they're not doing that.
Some of them are. So, like Nico Carrillo, he definitely cut weight. That dude was so much bigger than Nong-O, much bigger.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, if you watch the highlights, like, just the height difference is huge. But
the size difference
he was not a thin dude.
No, not at all.
He looked easily a good 20 pounds bigger than him.
And that's funny, because when you look at that, it's right. How can you really get the advantage? Like, how can that be good for you and your skill set if you're constantly fighting guys that you're way bigger than? Like, what are you really testing? That's just how I feel about it. I'm sure there's people out there listening that will agree with me. Some people will argue with me and say, well, you don't understand that there's a lot of discipline. And that's why I acknowledge that it takes a lot of discipline. I'm just not a fan of it. Because what test are you really testing? Test yourself at fighting someone your own size and your own weight. Can you still knock people out?
And they're not drinking water either, right?
There's a science behind that. That's a whole nother topic in itself. But like what you said earlier, it's not longevity. It's not good for the fighter. That's why a lot of these fighters that cut weight like that, you don't see them fight for too long. That's it. And then it's over, because everyone's body is different and everyone reacts differently to this weight cutting. But it's not good for you to be yo-yoing up and down like that. You know?
And is there like you talk about MMA, and I've never heard that before, but that makes a lot of sense. But is there like a financial advantage to that? Is that why it's so popular? Or
I just think there's certain weight classes that there's certain individuals in that weight class that it's like, you will get more stardom if I can face this guy. So I think that could also play a big role of like, I don't feel so much about money. I feel more, because I think the money would come when you get that recognition.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the fighters are looking for, at least speaking from myself who was a fighter. You're looking more for that recognition of it, getting acknowledgement like, hey, that guy's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense, because like boxing, I guess, would be similar because it's the heavyweight division used to be the most lucrative. Now it's probably, welterweight? That's one of the more popular ones. There's a couple of ones like right around there.
Yeah.
But and then those guys will jump up though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're not. They'll cut weight, but I don't think they're not doing it like the bodybuilder. They'll lose weight and then train at that weight. Yeah. Versus like before they're dropping 20 pounds.
Well, keep in mind these fighters are still doing that too. They're training while cutting weight. It's a crazy discipline that they have, but it's not good. Like longevity-wise, it's not good. That's why a lot of these fighters, they can't do it for very long.
Got it.
That's why they start having trouble making weight,
So let's get into the fight. I watched this myself, and I definitely want to hear kind of what happened strategy-wise, and talk about their strategy going into it, both fighters, and then adjustments that were made.
Okay. Love it. So first thing going into the fight, my main concern was, did Nong-O work on his defense? Because that's what he got knocked out with by Jonathan Haggerty really bad.
Yeah.
And that was just due to him taking Jonathan Haggerty too lightly.
Yeah.
They expected a different game plan from Jonathan Haggerty, and he came out blasting with hands, and that surprised them, right? And ended up catching him. So my thing was, all right, how is Nong-O going to start this first fight?
Yeah.
I love Nong-O's strategy right away. Right away, I saw him keep that guard super high and tight. I'm like, okay. And then he started chopping the legs. I'm like, smart, very smart. And he was using his footwork.
Because early on, he took a barrage, like almost from the get-go. It was almost like they followed the same game plan against him.
Not from the get-go, because he was landing a lot of leg kicks, so Nico had to like adjust.
Yeah.
And then shortly after several kicks, Nong-O was kicking just under the left knee on the side.
Yeah.
And it was damaging Nico's leg, so he had to quickly adjust. He would switch to southpaw.
I saw that, I noticed that.
And so Nong-O just kept trying to attack that same leg over and over, but throughout the fight, what happened was he did get like a barrage. Nico got a barrage of punches with Nong-O while he was against the ropes. And that was, I think, a bad strategy for Nong-O. He was better in the open floor because he could use his speed advantage.
Yeah.
But when he got trapped up against the ropes, Nico's power is just too much.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, sure enough, he got caught in the second round. He dropped him, and he was just taking a barrage of hits, and it showed Nico's heart, because Nico, a lot of people would have dropped with those kicks that he,
there's one part where it's
like literally hobbling.
I'm like, oh man, he's got
How is he standing up? I know that was very a true will of heart right there. But then this is what goes back to habits, right, Paul? I always talk about, even when you're training with me as well, every time people throw anything with the left, they drop their opposite hand. Right. And that's literally what Nong-O did. Now, going against a taller opponent, that's the worst thing you can do. And so he came in, right hand drop, got caught with a vicious left elbow, and that put him out. And, and it was just like, dang. And a lot of people don't realize, but I'm going to say it, I think Nong-O's chin is done.
Yeah.
I think he's done. I knew something was up. If you rewind back a few fights, he fought, I always have a hard time saying his first name, but it's Romanov.
Okay.
He is a really tall Russian fighter, and Nong-O dropped him with a body hook. But in that fight, he got rocked with a really hard left jab.
Ramazanov.
Ramazanov, thank you. Ramazanov. But Ramazanov got him with a really good stiff left jab, and it stumbled Nong-O.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that, but he was able to kind of recuperate. And then sure enough, what happens when he fights Jonathan Haggerty? He gets knocked out.
Yeah.
Then he fights Nico Creo, gets knocked out. And that's one thing that and I tell this, I preach this to my fighters. When you look at fights, Paul, and someone gets knocked out and they get back up on the horse to start fighting again, when you see their training montages, what are they working on? More offense.
Right.
More speed. when that wasn't the reason why you lost.
Right.
You lost because your guard was down. You had bad habits. Why aren't you fixing that? You know, and so that's what I was looking for in that fight from the strategy standpoint. But hats go off to both. My gosh, Nong-O fighting a bigger dude. Nico Creo withstanding those crazy leg kicks and still ending up getting the knockout.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And you know what's funny? He actually just fought again, Nico Creo, like 2 weeks ago in Japan, or a week ago or something. I don't know if that, I'm a little confused because one championship always puts old fights and it seems like it's current, but they fought in Japan. Nico Creo fought a guy named Karabag, and look at the size. Look at very similar.
Yeah,
pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So this was an incredible fight too, and Karabag ends up getting knocked out. So it shows Nico Creo has power.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Going back to size advantage, Nong-O should have tried to stick with more of the kicks, not so much trying to knock him out with punches and elbows. Yeah. Because Nico Creo is naturally bigger, so he can naturally take more punishment before he drops.
For sure.
You know, so
that makes sense.
It should have been definitely more focused on the leg kick stoppages for sure, you know, but unfortunately he got caught. But to me, when I looked at prior training footage leading up to the fight, Nong-O was getting tagged in sparring, getting punched. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you're not even... So I'm like trying to give benefit of the doubt. Well, maybe he's just really tired. He's done a lot of training, which he probably already had. Sparring, he was just kind of wearing out. But again, those are habits.
Those are habits,
You know, and you're going to transition that into the fight, which he did. And then sure enough, look what happened.
Yeah, because we talked about it before in one of the previous podcasts. But, you know, we talked about David's instincts because, you know, again, especially if you get caught before that and you're able to withstand it, you're foggy, you're not all there. And so, like you're saying, your habits will now kick in. Your instincts will kick in, and if your instincts are to keep them high,
that's right.
You know, you'll defend yourself. Versus if you're used to dropping them, you're going to drop them even further because you're more tired.
Yes.
And so, David was able to withstand a barrage, get his balance, and then ultimately able to finish the fight and win.
That's right.
And if Nong-O was able to keep it up a little bit higher, he might have been able to win because he was definitely on the ledge. The other guy was so
absolutely. It was so crazy to see that fight.
Awesome. Well, let's transition to the next fight, which is Prajan Chai versus Lazary 2.
Oh wow!
So talk about the first one and then talk about this one going in.
So the first fight was what do they call it? An upset victory. Lazary stopped Prajan Chai. He cut him with an elbow. And he was just getting beat up. Prajan Chai was just not in the right mindset. I don't know if he was not feeling so well. You know, sometimes you see really good fighters and then you see him fight one day and you're like, what happened? So maybe he was under the weather. You know, I don't know, and still fought. And but then they get the stoppage. Lazary wins. Fast forward.
How many years? Do you know the difference in the years in fight?
I don't know, but I would say at least within a year.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but I think within the year.
May 21st, 2022, so about a year and a half.
Okay.
A little over a year and a half.
Okay. So yeah, wow, a year and a half till they got to get the rematch. And this fight, you could see Prajan Chai was very sharp. Right from the opening gate, he switched stances, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, oh, wow, okay, he's switching stances, giving Lazary a different look this time. And he was playing more of the counter fighter right away, whereas opposed to the first fight, he kind of came off more aggressive and was like instigating his strategy. But this time around, he switched stances and was playing more of the counter fighter and trying to go off of Lazary's mistakes. And again, ends by a vicious knockout in the first round with the left elbow. Apparently the left elbow was working for a lot of people that night. But there's like one scene where Lazary has Prajan Chai on the ropes. And this is what I always teach my fighters. When we get somewhat in clinch realm, you need to always get top control of the arm. And so you could see Lazary didn't have anything with his right arm, got caught with the left elbow right on the money, and then that just put him out. He just didn't even see that coming. It was a beautiful thrown, timed elbow, beautiful to watch. And so that was it.
And that goes, you were talking about him switching stances.
Yes.
And that's a big, you and Mike were talking about that in the last podcast, but that's a big reason why you guys aren't that big on film, because he never necessarily showed that a lot, right?
No.
So if you're studying all this, then all of a sudden the fight, you switch your stances.
Absolutely.
And if you're just like I said, if you're not balanced and, all your skills are equal, then you can get caught that much easier because you're leaning or you're expecting that left, and all of a sudden you can come with that right. But,
exactly. Yeah, I always say, like, you don't know how they're going to fight you till that day. Yeah. So just be prepared for everything. Yeah. When you prepare for everything, you're ready for everything. Yeah,
for sure.
And so, I'm a big believer in that.
Nice. All right, let's talk about the next fight, Superbon versus Taiwan Chai.
Ooh, that was a technical battle by far. It was a back and forth exchange. And we've talked about mindset on this podcast. I'm very big on mindset as well. And I could tell Taiwan Chai was hungrier. Yeah. You could just tell from the way he was fighting. Superbon was just there, but Taiwan Chai was there to win. Yeah. You could just see by the fighting, like every time they had some technical exchanges, Taiwan Chai for the most part was always over dominating the volume of strikes that were coming through. Yeah. But again, a beautiful display of Muay Thai. Both fighters are amazing individuals, amazing fighters, amazing technicians.
Was it considered an upset or no?
No.
Or they're pretty equal?
No, they're pretty equal. Okay. But Taiwan Chai is he's hungry. You could just tell by the way he's fighting right now. He's demolishing everyone that's in front of him. And I thought it was pretty cool too, to just show how strong Taiwan Chai was. In the later rounds, I don't know if it was the 4th or the 5th round, Superbon gets his body kick caught, right? Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Superbon catches Taiwan Chai's kick. Yeah. And Superbon tries to sweep Taiwan Chai, but Taiwan Chai is so strong and sturdy, Superbon misses the sweep, loses his balance, and ends up falling down by simply Taiwan Chai just bringing his leg down. Oh, wow. And you see the strength, the balance, and the power difference. You know what I mean? And I could definitely tell the fatigue factor was setting in on Superbon too. So I could just tell Taiwan Chai, he was ready. Nice. He wants to be the champ. He wants. Superbon has been the champ. He's been multiple-time champ. He's been on top of his game, but man, people always
was that considered a title fight or no?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. And who does?
Actually, wait, was it? Let's Google that.
Yeah. Taiwan Chai retains one featherweight.
Okay, so he's the champ.
He's the champ.
He's the champ right now.
Okay. So he's the featherweight. So he's on top.
Yeah, he's on top. He's on top, and it shows. He performed so well. It was beautiful. If you guys haven't seen the fight yet, check it out. Like, it's incredible.
Awesome. And then let's talk about the last one, Anissa Meksen versus Petjija.
Woo! All right. Well, if you guys are familiar with Anissa, she's very acclimated into Glory Kickboxing. Okay. Has really just demolished every woman she's faced in the Glory Kickboxing ring. She's been dominating for years that I've known her. So I was excited to see her sign a one championship contract. I was like, man, this is going to be an incredible match. And then they put her against this Petjija. I was like, okay, never heard of her. Yeah. And I would say that fight, Anissa was definitely more favored. But I was so impressed, Paul, by Petjija's performance. I've never seen a Thai girl implement head movement the way she was, and her counter boxing was beautiful to watch that night. She was making Anissa miss multiple times and then would make her pay for it. Oh, wow. She would get caught and Jija would just continue firing back. It was a beautiful display of women fighting. It was so great to see. Nice. And sure enough, it was a dominant performance. All judges gave it to Petjija. So it was an incredible performance and definitely a noteworthy fight to watch, especially if you want to see some entertaining women fighters. Those are two fighters you definitely want to watch. It was kickboxing rules. But man, incredible.
What's the difference between kickboxing rules versus Muay Thai?
So kickboxing rules is
no elbows.
Well, at least for one championship, they fight with the big standard boxing gloves.
Okay.
Right. There's limited
ounce
clinch.
Or 16 ounce.
10.
10 ounce.
10 or lower. All right. And clinch is limited.
Okay.
When you grab the clinch, you can do one knee strike, then you got to let go.
Oh, okay.
You can't catch kicks. You can't sweep.
Got it.
You literally just have to fight.
Got it.
They'll what do you call it? They'll warn you. They'll take points away. They'll take money from your purse if you keep holding. Okay. So the objective with kickboxing is action, action, action all the time.
And is it knees and elbows too, or no?
No knees, just knees, but you have to knee without grabbing.
Got it.
Yeah, because with clinching, it slows the action down. Now it's like a lot of neck wrestling, right?
Yeah.
But with kickboxing, it's like they want action.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And then just there's no catching, no sweeps, limited clinch. That would be the difference. And then in kickboxing, punches are scored heavier than kicks.
Got it. Because in Muay Thai, it's the opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, I thought it'd be cool for us to talk about these fights. If you guys have not seen it, man, definitely recommend it. I know Paul enjoyed watching them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. One championship that's on Amazon Prime. If you guys have Amazon Prime, they're typically Friday nights. If you're on Pacific time, right around about 5-ish or 6, I think it starts. No, I'm sorry, it's in the morning. Mm-hmm. It's like Friday morning, so it's like 10, 11 a.m. They're typically on Amazon Prime. And then the replays can be tough to watch. I've tried to watch a few of them, and they're kind of, if you don't watch them live, it can get a little tricky. But check Amazon Prime, search them, and you can kind of figure it out. So
yeah, absolutely. But Paul, thank you for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
I always love talking fights with you. It's always fun, right?
I love it. I love watching them.
But guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Muay Thai Save Me. Today we just wanted to talk about some recent fights that occurred. So check out those fights, guys, if you havenent done so already. Nico Creo versus Nong-O. We have Prajan Chai versus Lazary 2. Super Bomb versus Tawan Chai. And then check out the females as well. Anissa Mexen versus Pet Chicha on one championship, guys. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. All right, but if you like this video or any other content that we're producing, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for next week.